Wait a minute, I thought he looked like this now. Hello summoners, or should I say fighters, and welcome. Now, I'm going to start off by saying, a while ago I made a video about the reveal of Blitzcrank for 2xKO, in which I voiced a lot of criticism about Riot's handling of the 2xKO development, and what I felt was a premature announcement and a lackluster roster. And I really expressed some doubts over if the game was even still viable, whether the hype for it had fizzled out, and even if it would actually release in 2025. And I wanted to come back and own this. I was wrong. Clearly, 2xKO still has an eager player base who are thrilled over the release, and Riot has lately done a much better job of building out the roster with more dynamic champions like Blitzcrank and Teemo, along with the announcement of Warwick, who I believed should have been in the roster from the start. So that last one definitely scored a lot of points with me personally. And while I will say I still think Riot continued the closed betas for a little too long, and maybe should have provided a more concrete release date sooner, I was fatally mistaken by saying that the hype was gone. More and more people have been getting their hands on the game and have given it some very positive feedback. At last, 2xKO is here, and it seems it's here to stay. And I have to say, that cinematic was insane. I really don't think I've enjoyed a cinematic that much since the opening to Welcome to Noxus. The animation was amazing, the song was incredible, and every champion in it really shone in the spotlight. For as much trouble as I've given this game about hype, there are not words to describe how excited I was for the game after watching this, and I've already watched it several times. I may have cried. Now, I'm not going to go into any big Easter egg breakdown for this. Not that I don't think there are Easter eggs in it, but I really wanted to focus on something that has me wondering, is 2xKO going back on League's lore? Now, for a bit of context, in the time before Arcane Season 2, every project using the League IP was treated as its own distinct version of the universe. The mainline League of Legends, Legends of Runeterra, and Arcane all had different versions of the iconic characters and their stories. So it was treated as almost a multiverse, with each game presenting its own distinct canon. But with Arcane Season 2's release, Riot said that going forward, they were going to end the idea of separate versions of the universe and consolidate everything into one cohesive canon with Arcane as the new cornerstone. This is why many champions have been receiving VGUs and new lore lately, as well as why the entire 2025 storyline has largely been a continuation of Arcane. But with that all said, what does this have to do with 2xKO? Well, I want to point out some of the champion designs, as well as some lore teased in the cinematic, because there are some inconsistencies. First of all, it's clear that Echo is meant to be the Arcane version, with his Season 2 outfit and even some details such as the Firelight glider seen in the cinematic. Now, I think that means that this Echo is likely from the time after Arcane, maybe a few months or even a year after the events of the show. And this cinematic might be giving us glimpses of what he's been doing ever since. We don't see any flashes of him interacting with characters like Vi or Jinx, who are also in 2xKO, and he doesn't really seem to be fighting Enforcers or Chem Barons at all, other than just this one random thug here. He seems to have taken on a role as a sort of neighborhood guardian, judging from what we can see, which does track with his character in Arcane, and I wholly believe that Echo would continue trying to improve Zaun even after Arcane's events. And building off the Arcane threads, Vi's design for the game, while somewhat different, does mostly follow her Arcane look. The same with Jinx, only Jinx really should have short hair if this is after Arcane, but I digress. That could easily just be written off as Riot keeping the character recognizable. And there is a skin for that appearance planned, so maybe it's just Riot milking some money out of it. And while I can't say anything about the characters such as Yasuo, Darius, or Alawi since they weren't in Arcane and we're still waiting on any new lore for them, there is one champion who is from Arcane who really does complicate things. And that, of course, is Warwick. Warwick was first leaked as the 11th champion of 2xKO by Riot's Brazilian account. But this only came a few days before the official cinematic, which he was prominently featured in. So I guess it wasn't that much of a spoiler in the long run. But the big issue here is that Warwick is clearly modeled after his League of Legends appearance, not the weird half Vander one from Arcane. And while I understand why he was changed in Arcane for those big emotional moments, I really expect that he would evolve into the original Warwick at some point in the story, which never really happened, to my disappointment. So there were some problems we were left with. For instance, why is he called Warwick in the game when he was only ever called Vander in Arcane? And I mean that. Go rewatch Arcane and I promise you, they never call him Warwick once. And so, if 2XKO is continuing off of Arcane, then why does Warwick look so different from the show's version, which should be the new canon? Well, I think there can only be two answers. First, Riot may be going back on what they said about having just one universe, and 2XKO is an alternate timeline with alternate versions of the characters. Of course, this could just be explained as, just with League of Legends, the core gameplay in 2XKO is not representative of the actual lore in any way, and acts purely as what-if situations with characters that normally wouldn't be meeting in the narrative. Now, I think this is perfectly reasonable, but potentially dangerous to Riot's goal to make a single universe. Because already, a lot of people who have only watched Arcane saw Warwick in 2XKO and had no idea that this was the same character. So there's already confusion between the different versions, and this is the exact reason Riot's trying to put everything together into one canon. But then there is the second option, which is that Riot might be teasing that Warwick will be getting some new lore soon. And this is definitely the more interesting option, because as I said earlier, in Arcane, Vander never really reached full Warwick. He was stuck in this weird Vander purgatory for all of Season 2. And there's a lot of speculation that he, like Jinx, actually survived the Arcane finale. So Riot could canonize the classic Warwick by continuing on that story. And I think it would be very easy for Riot to say that after Arcane, Singed or someone else finds Warwick and finishes his evolution and thus frees him from Victor's transformation. And just to further my case of why I think Warwick will transform fully in the Arcane timeline, I want to take a look at some cards from Legends of Runeterra. Now, Warwick was added as a champion to the game just after Arcane Season 2. And notice, he's still using his classic League design. But the flavor text on the cards seem to be hinting at this taking place in the Arcane universe. Now I'm going to start by just reading the flavor text to his level 1 card. Claws like knives and glowing red eyes. Sounds like the ramblings of those shimmered up lunatics. But if the sheriff insists, I'll trek down there and check it out. Piltover Enforcer. Trainee. The card's flavor text directly mentions Shimmer, which was introduced through Arcane. So this is a huge hint that this Warwick is indeed in the Arcane timeline. And continuing on to his level 2 flavor text, torn limb from limb, the deceased enforcer appears to have succumbed to blood loss. The claw marks match those found on the unidentified remains in the sump. Just what kind of monster are we dealing with? Coroner. But then the really interesting one is Warwick's signature spell card, Blood Hunt. Now, in addition to having some really interesting flavor text here, this illustration directly comes from Arcane itself. You can see the card is even credited Fortiche as the artist. So, for this text, it was a beast, one of those screwed up Chemtech things, all teeth and claws, and when the screaming stopped, there was nothing but bits of meat and bone. Zonite Minor. Again, another mention of Shimmer, further building my theory that Warwick has fully transformed in the post-Arcane timeline. But that's just my theory, and now I'd love to hear if you have one. Is Warwick getting new lore, or is Riot just using separate character designs again? And are you happy with 2XKO's release? Let me know in the comments below, and if you like this video, then please consider subscribing to my channel. I'll be making more videos about 2XKO and other Riot Games content, so if you enjoy League news, lore, and theories, then I really hope you stick around. And until next time, I'll see you out on the Summoner's Rift.